Welcome to America, a land of freedom, opportunity, and very fusing measurements. While the rest of the world counts in tens, Americans are busy calculating how many inches are in a mile or why there are 16 ounces in a pound. It seems like a strange choice for a modern superpower, but the reason isn't just about tradition. It's actually a story involving a brilliant scientist, a secret mission, and a very unlucky encounter with pirates in the late 18th century. Meet our guide through this mystery. He's surrounded by the tools of the trade, but notice the dual markings on his tools, one side for centimeters, the other for inches. This duality is the heart of the American measurement identity crisis. To understand how this happened, we have to travel back to the 1790s, a time when the United States was a brand new nation trying to find its footing and its own standards of trade and commerce. Back then, every state in the new U.S. had its own messy system of weights and measures. A pound of flour in New York might not be the same as a pound in South Carolina. It was a nightmare for merchants and a headache for the government. Thomas Jefferson, the Secretary of State at the time, knew this chaos couldn't last if the young nation wanted to thrive economically. He was looking for a logical, unified system to bring order to the madness. Jefferson was a man of science and a fan of the Enlightenment. He heard whispers from across the Atlantic that France was developing something revolutionary, a decimal-based system based on the dimensions of the Earth itself. It was clean, it was elegant, and most importantly, it was logical. Jefferson sent a letter to his friends in France, practically begging for the new standards so he could propose them to the American Congress. The French were eager to help. They chose a botanist and scientist named Joseph Dombey to carry the official standards to America. Dombey was entrusted with two precious items: a copper rod exactly 1 meter long and a copper cylinder that weighed exactly 1 kilogram. These weren't just pieces of metal. They were the DNA of a new global language of measurement. If they reached Jefferson, the United States might have been the first nation after France to go metric. In 1794, Joseph Dombey boarded a ship bound for Philadelphia. He was optimistic, carrying the weight of scientific progress in his luggage. He imagined a warm welcome from Jefferson and a quick adoption of these superior units. But the Atlantic Ocean in the 18th century was a dangerous place, filled with more than just rough waves and unpredictable weather. It was also crawling with privateers and pirates looking for valuable cargo. As Dombey's ship crossed the ocean, a massive storm began to brew. The vessel was tossed like a toy in the violent Atlantic waters. The winds pushed the ship far off its intended course, steering it away from the safety of Philadelphia and deep into the Caribbean. This was the worst possible place to be, as these waters were known territory for British privateers who were currently at war with France. The storm eventually subsided, but the trouble was only beginning. Out of the mist, a British privateer ship appeared on the horizon. Seeing a French-flagged vessel, they attacked. Dombey's ship was captured, and the crew was taken prisoner. The privateers weren't interested in scientific progress. They were looking for gold, spices, or anything they could sell for a profit. They had no idea that the small copper cylinder in Dombey's cabin was actually a piece of history. Joseph Dombey was thrown into a prison in Montserrat. Sadly, the brilliant scientist never made it out. He died in captivity shortly after. His precious cargo, the meter and the kilogram, was looted along with everything else on the ship. The pirates looked at the copper cylinder and saw only scrap metal. It was eventually sold at an auction of captured goods, changing hands several times before anyone realized what it actually was. Back in Philadelphia, Thomas Jefferson waited and waited. He never received the samples, and he never heard from Dombey. Without the physical standards to show Congress, Jefferson couldn't push his metric plan forward. The momentum died. Eventually, the U.S. government decided to stick with the British imperial system they were already using, simply because it was easier than trying to reinvent the wheel without the proper tools. By the time another set of metric standards finally reached American shores decades later, it was too late. The Industrial Revolution was in full swing. American factories had already spent millions of dollars building machines, tools, and parts based on inches and pounds. Changing everything would have cost a fortune and disrupted the entire economy. The window of opportunity had slammed shut, all because of that one fateful pirate encounter. But here is the plot twist. America is technically metric. In 1866, Congress passed an act making it legal to use the metric system for all contracts and dealings. Then, in 1975, the Metric Conversion Act was signed, declaring the metric system the preferred system for trade. However, the law was voluntary, and the American public, used to their miles and gallons, simply said, no thanks. Today, the U.S. exists in a strange middle ground. If you look closely, your soda bottle is in liters, your medicine is in milligrams, and your car's speedometer has those little kilometer-per-hour numbers. Even the definition of an inch is officially based on the millimeter. Behind the scenes, American scientists and the military use metric exclusively to stay compatible with the rest of the world. So, why not just finish the job and switch completely? The answer is cost and culture. Replacing every road sign, redesigning every bolt, and retraining 330 million people is a logistical nightmare estimated to cost billions. It's become a part of the national identity, a quirky defiance against global norms that traces its roots back to that shipwrecked copper cylinder. Imagine how different things would be if those pirates had just ignored Dombey's ship. American students wouldn't have to learn two systems, and NASA wouldn't have lost a $125 million Mars orbiter due to a math error between metric and imperial units. Yes, that actually happened in 1999. A simple pirate raid in the 1700s has had consequences reaching all the way to outer space. The moral of the story? History is often shaped by the most random events. A gust of wind, a bad decision by a captain, or the greed of a pirate can alter the course of a nation for centuries. The metric system is logical, efficient, and used by almost everyone. But America's journey is a reminder that once a system is woven into the fabric of a society, it's incredibly hard to unspool. So, the next time you're struggling to remember how many teaspoons are in a tablespoon, or why a mile is 5,280 feet, don't blame your math teacher. Blame the high seas and the unfortunate Joseph Dombey. America is an outlier not by choice, but by a series of historical accidents that just kept piling up over 200 years. Is there hope for a metric America? Probably not anytime soon. But as the world becomes more connected, the pressure to standardize grows. Maybe one day, the United States will finally fulfill Jefferson's dream. Until then, we'll keep our miles, our pounds, and our unique history that separates us from the rest of the map. Thanks for traveling through time with us today. If you enjoyed this dive into the weird history of measurements, make sure to hit that like button and subscribe for more fascinating stories. What do you think? Should the U.S. finally make the switch? Or is the current system part of what makes America unique? Let us know in the comments below. Stay curious, keep asking why, and remember, history is hidden in the strangest places, even in the ruler sitting on your desk. See you in the next video as we uncover more secrets of our world. Goodbye.